There were a lot of comments in my video where I ranked all the Jujutsu Kaisen characters, discussing if Maki was actually as strong as Toji, or who would win in a fight between the two. And I thought enough people were talking about this that I should make a video on this. So the video is going to be structured similarly to my Hikari vs Yuta video. So the first part will be discussing points and arguments for Toji, the second part are points and arguments for Maki, and of course the final part is going to be the conclusion where I decide who the winner is. Keep in mind, this is just who I think the winner is. If you don't agree with my conclusion, that's totally fine. Alright, so I'm going to be starting off with points for Toji because I know he's a fan favorite, so I'll say his parts first. Now, before I give the main points for Toji, I should actually start with how strong Toji is, because this actually scales directly to Maki. So, thanks to his heavenly restrictions, Toji is an absolute beast. His strength and physical speed are just out of this world. And this is even crazier considering the fact that he has no cursed energy. It's not even a tiny bit, it's zero. And this also comes with the fact that his senses are heightened to an extreme sense. So his sense of smell, his sense of sight, even his sixth sense is heightened to an inhuman level. And we saw with his Dagon fight that he was able to take on extremely strong special grade curses with relative ease. Granted, he did have slight help from everyone, such as the fact that Dagon could not use his one-hit technique thanks to Megami's domain expansion clashing in a tug of war. Even still, a lot of the credit was given to Toji, and he did make a mockery out of Dagon, who, keep in mind, was going to kill a supreme grade 1 sorcerer, a grade 1 sorcerer, and also Maki, who was, I would say at that point, she was probably semi-grade 1. Once he had expanded his domain, he was going to, let's be honest, low diff them, had it not been for Megami interfering. And Toji, to the shock of everyone there, made a mockery of it. And obviously this is beside the fact that he killed 2 special grade sorcerers back to back, which granted, he did not take them on in a 2v1, it was a 1v1, but it was back to back. And it's also important to state that special grade sorcerers are a lot stronger than special grade curses. Well, relatively, because there are the high-end special grade cursed spirits. Now, one important fact I have to state is that the Gojo he killed was an extremely inexperienced Gojo. Because I know there's always the fact that, oh, he killed Gojo, Toji must be the top of the verse, which is absolutely crazy. There were so many comments in my Jujutsu Kaisen power scaling video that either had Toji at the very top, like on the same tier as Yuta, or there were actually people, and I kid you not, who had Toji at the same level of grade 1 sorcerers. So there was someone who actually said he scales to Naoya, which is mind-bafflingly stupid. But the reality is, he scales in between both extremes, where he's able to take on special grade users like, let's say, an inexperienced Gojo, and Geto, who was very strong, keep in mind, and also Dagon too. And he also possessed the strength to scare the entire Zenin clan, who had multiple grade 1 sorcerers and supreme grade 1 sorcerers. Though I know supreme grade 1, there are a lot of arguments that supreme grade 1 and grade 1 are the same level of strength, which I think is fair, though it's never actually been stated in the series what the difference is. The difference could just be a status thing where the strengths are the same, though it does appear that the supreme grade 1 sorcerers are stronger than regular grade 1 sorcerers. Though it could just be a coincidence that the supreme grade sorcerers that we just happen to see just happen to be the strongest of grade 1. Though keep in mind, it's never been clarified anywhere what the distinction is between supreme grade 1 and grade 1. Though of course we can theorize. Regardless, he had the strength to scare one of the top 3 strongest clans in the whole world of Jujutsu Kaisen alone, so he is no joke. Now, one thing I have to clarify is his scaling when he fought Gojo really seems to skyrocket him, because people assume, wow, this guy beat Gojo, he must be top of the verse. Now, the reason this is not true is for so many reasons, it's actually kind of crazy. So the first reason being, Gojo had his techniques activated for many days on end without rest, and he also hadn't slept too. So this Gojo was fatigued beyond belief. The second point is that he also caught Gojo off guard, and he got a sneak attack in. So beside the fact that Gojo was fatigued heavily and also got hit by a sneak attack. And then of course the main reason is that this Gojo was very young and inexperienced. So remember that this Gojo that lost to Toji didn't have reverse curse technique, he didn't have his domain expansion, he didn't have hollow purple, he didn't have a decade of more experience, he didn't have his long distance teleportations, and he also didn't yet have the ability red glow, or he wasn't even able to use it on command. So obviously I'm not saying Toji is weak, I'm just saying there are a plethora of reasons why this Gojo lost. Because let's be real, if the current day Gojo fought Toji hand to hand, he would kill Toji. That's not even including his Hollow Purple or his domain expansion, which would one-shot Toji. Now, this is just to bring Toji back to reality, saying he's not the top of the verse, but remember, he's also not bottom tier, where he was able to manhandle Dagon, and also, from what we later see with what Maki does, he is able to handle multiple grade 1 sorcerers with extreme ease, and these are the strong grade 1 sorcerers too, the peak of grade 1. So, Toji is no joke. And before I get into my points and arguments for Maki, if you've been enjoying the video so far, do consider subscribing to the channel because I make a ton of Jujutsu Kaisen content like this. So if you've been enjoying the video so far, I would really appreciate it. Now on to points for Maki. Every single scaling that I just said about Toji, all of that scales directly to Maki. Now there are going to be some people who disagree with this, saying Maki is not as physically strong as Toji or blah blah blah, which honestly, there is so much overwhelming evidence that supports Maki being the exact same strength and speed as Toji. It's kind of crazy how people still think this. So the first piece of evidence is that the moment Maki awakened, so this is what I like to call it, like your Maki's awakening, even though in reality she was just being held back from Mai, because in Jujutsu Kaisen, twins are treated as one. So Mai being alive heavily restricted Maki's heavily in restriction, so it's a restriction on a restriction, if that makes sense. The point is, when Maki first awakened and her father Ogi Zenin saw her, it was a direct comparison to Toji. It was a one-to-one panel comparing the two, with the aura being the same and them having the same pose and the same glare. This is the author literally trying to show us Maki is now the same as Toji. And this is beside the fact that Ogi got absolutely shook because when he saw Maki, he saw Toji one for one. You have to remember, Ogi knows how strong Toji is, so he knows that this comparison is true and right. In that instant, keep in mind, this is one of the strongest grade 1 sorcerers out there. He goes full power and releases his technique, Blazing Courage, and gets blitzed and one-shot by Maki with no difficulty. It wasn't low difficulty, it was no difficulty. Later on, we see that she is taking on multiple Hei members. So Hei members are members of the Zenin clan who are at the very least semi-grade 1, and these are the strongest sorcerers in the Zenin clan. So a member of the Hei called Ranta tries to hold Maki off. Keep in mind, this guy is grade 1, and he's one of the strongest sorcerers in the Zenin clan. He is no joke, but he is not able to hold back Maki. Now, this guy says word for word, the current Zenin clan exists because of Master Toji's whim. You must have noticed, Maki has become the same as him. He is saying, word for word, Maki is the same as Toji. And this guy calls Toji Master Toji, so he knows how strong Toji is. And then another piece of evidence supporting the fact that Maki is, at the very least, the same strength, speed, and her senses are all on the same level as Toji, is the fact that Naoya, when he's fighting her, says, you really are an imposter. And what he means is that he doesn't think Maki is the same as Toji because he is a major Toji fanboy, which I imagine many of us, including me, can relate. Who isn't a Toji fanboy? Am I right? And right after he thinks this, he says, you impost, and then he gets cut off as he gets one shot. Keep in mind, Naoya is incredibly powerful. He gets one shot by Maki, with Maki saying, sorry, say that again, would you? Now, obviously, beside the fact that this is Maki literally punching the doubters and detractors who say she's not the same as Toji or an imposter of Toji right in the face and one-shotting them. This is literally the author, literally, beside the fact that he already said in the previous chapter that Maki is the same as Toji. This is now him saying or portraying in the story that people who think that Maki and Toji are not the same or that Maki is weaker are just wrong. It's literally what he is portraying in his story, beside the fact that he has also said it. Now, the biggest downplay that people say for Maki is that she was struggling against Naoya. Now, this is an incredibly, and I don't mean to sound too harsh or rude, but a very poor and just blatantly stupid argument. To quote directly, Maki suffered injuries and loss of blood fighting Ogi and then fought against the Hei. You have to remember that before Maki even fought all of the Zenin clan and Naoya, that she had her insides and her eye ripped apart and had major blood loss before she had awakened. So this is Maki when she was still weak. So before Maki had become super strong, as I'm showing now, she had her insides ripped apart, her eye cut, which caused obviously major blood loss. So even after she became stronger and was awakened, she had still taken heavy damage from beforehand and had still lost a ton of blood. And then all of this was beside the fact that she slaughtered the entire Kukuru unit of the Zenin clan and also the Hei unit of the Zenin clan, where she took on multiple grade 1 sorcerers. And these aren't your average grade 1 sorcerers, these are the strongest grade 1 sorcerers of the Zenin clan, one of the strongest clans in all of Jujutsu Kaisen, and she took them all on in a 4v1, and she killed them all with ease. So this was the reason why she wanted to end Naoya's fight faster, because she had already lost a lot of blood from before she had awakened. And you have to remember, Maki was not taking any damage from Naoya. Naoya was hitting Maki super fast and with immense strength, but what was happening was from those hits, she was losing blood from the wounds she already had. It wasn't like Naoya was making her bleed, she was already bleeding out, and obviously being tossed around at super speeds, though it would not damage her, it is making the wounds that she already had before she was awakened far worse and causing her to bleed out more. And also remember this, she not only figured out Naoya's technique very easily, she one-shot Naoya with one punch, even though she had taken on the entire Hei, the entire Kukuro unit, and was also bleeding out and fatigued. Well, I don't think it was the entire Hei, there were other members of the Hei she later on killed, but it was multiple grade 1 sorcerers of the strongest clan. So if you've made it this far and you still think that Maki isn't as physically strong as Toji, you know, with her strength, speed, and her senses, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the author is slapping it in your face multiple times, even of him directly saying that Maki and Toji are the same. So keep in mind, I mean that just their strength, like their physical abilities, if you don't think they're the same, is it crazy to say that? You might just be sexist. Like seriously, at this point there is so much overwhelming factual evidence that is the only plausible conclusion I can come to as to why you would think she's physically weaker than Toji. Is that an extreme statement from me? Yes, but that is legit the only reason I can actually see someone thinking Maki is physically weaker or slower than Toji. Alright, now the conclusion. So, who wins this battle? Now, this is going to be a very, very intense battle since they both have the same speed, the same strength, and have the same enhanced senses. So, I'm gonna be honest, if this fight were to have happened one-on-one, it would be an extremely, extremely high difficulty fight for both of them. Now, in this fight, obviously, we would give Maki her Playful Cloud special grade weapon, which is insanely powerful, which I actually think if she had that weapon, it'd be too much of an advantage for her, to be honest. And then obviously Toji has his arsenal of weapons. I guess in this hypothetical 1v1, I would just give them the same weapons to make it fair, but regardless of all that, who would win? Now, the conclusion that I have come to is that Toji would most likely win, which I know is crazy because I have just gassed up Maki so hard. Now, why do I think this? The reason I think this is because, yes, they have the same physical strength, so physical speed, and of course senses, but Toji is older than Maki, so he has so much more experience, specifically experience of having a super enhanced body. But this obviously pales to the fact that Toji has a plethora of experience killing and hunting sorcerers. He was known as the sorcerer hunter. You do not get a title like that just for hunting down a couple sorcerers. This man has probably hunted down countless sorcerers in many assassination attempts because he is an assassin, so he is more of a crafty fighter. For that reason, I would say Toji is slightly, just very slightly stronger than Maki, just due to that experience of having fought so many sorcerers in life and death battles, and also just being older, so he has, at the very least, I think it's like a decade, maybe even 2 more decades, I don't know the exact age gap, of more experience compared to Maki. Though I do think the fight would be, even with that experience, it would be a fight to the death, and it would be a very, very gruesome fight. And it's even possible that they would just kill each other in that fight. I would think of it like this: if they fought 100 times, Toji would win 55 of those fights, Maki would win 45 of those fights, because they are just that close in power. I would just give Toji that slight edge because of that experience of hunting sorcerers. But when it comes down to their speed, their strength, their senses, they are the exact same. And if you, for some reason, at this point, still don't agree with that, I am baffled, to be honest. Though there are theories that Maki is stronger than Toji, and that once we see her in the culling game, because at the time of this recording we still haven't seen her in the culling game, that we might see her be super strong. Now, I doubt that this is going to be the case. I really hope it is, because I would love to see Maki be super strong. She's already super strong, but to see her be even stronger than that, that would be a sight to see. So people theorize that, but the real answer is Maki is not weaker than Toji, not stronger than Toji, she is just the same. Is that kind of a boring answer? Actually, I don't think so. I think it's awesome that she's that strong. But yeah, so that is my conclusion to what if Maki and Toji fought. If you disagree, that's fine. Let me know in the comments why you disagree. Just as long as you keep it civil and you just don't get hostile with me, then I am of course open open to all conversations. There are friendly ones. And like I said halfway through the video, if you like Jujutsu Kaisen content, or if you enjoyed this video in particular, please do consider subscribing, because I have similar videos to this one on my channel and I plan to make a lot more in the future. And if you want to see what I think about Yuta versus Hakari, then you can watch that video here. But yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching and take care.